problem is global. So to think that we are the only countries that discuss climate change is wrong. Indonesia is doing that, Africa is doing it, China and India is doing it also. So I think I'm very calm on this issue. I think we will solve it.
Maybe to picking on the international dimension of the ETS and the use of external credits, such as the credits under the clean development mechanism to meet your domestic reduction targets. We have a specific question from the UK on why would Europe restrict the access to those type of credits, and wouldn't it be better to improve the quality of those credits, that they really represent real emission reductions and emission reductions related to projects which are sustainable in the end? We also know that this was an issue that was heavily debated again in the committees.
Yes. Should I start on this one? Yeah. We have special mechanisms in Europe, and in the UN system we have the clean development mechanism. Of course we have to use them in Europe, and if you look at the financing of the UN projects, the vast majority of the money, most of the money comes from Europe. So we have to bridge in between the UN system and the European system. We've tried to do this. The problems we have to think about is that the amount of CDMs are so big. So if we just open all the doors, it will flood the market. So that is not a possibility. We have to restrict it. All of them are not good. If we look into decisions taken, we see that some are extremely good, some halfway, and some are, well, not of the quality we want. So the second thing we're doing is building a bridge by saying that we should use part of it in Europe. It also adds to the possibilities for European industry and member states to do what they want and see what is the best thing and the most economic thing to do. But we add the Parliament, both in your committee and in my committee, we add requirements on quality standards. Now we will have to fight for this with the Council, but neither Mrs. Doyle nor I hesitate in this. So we're trying to find a smart way of using it in Europe. That's the answer.
I just add that both Lena Ek and I from the ITRE and Environment Committee very much want to ensure that, if you like, industrial Europe can meet its reduction targets, you know, from 2012 to 2020, at least cost to them. And I think the final figure in terms of the amount of CDM that will be allowed in the post-2012 directive will be somewhere between 40 and 50% of the reduction effort that will be required, whether that's from on minus 20%, it's actually 21% by 2020, or minus 30% if we have a global international agreement. And I think we're presuming a level of knowledge amongst your learned questioners on this, but I think it might be worthwhile saying that CDM allows for offsetting carbon, so that at least cost European industry and maybe some member states under effort sharing as well, you know, to be decided, part of the trilogues discussions at the moment still, will be able to meet the reduction targets that are they're signing up to in Europe by, you know, investing in energy efficient, carbon efficient type of projects, quality proofed, as Lena says. There's another aspect, though, about CDM we need to look at, and this is really the UN are looking at this, and hopefully will come back to us in Poznan next week. They look after, if you like, or provide the CDM executive board. And there's a lot of questions about the lack of appeal in terms of verification of projects. Now, the investment can be made, they can get an initial saying okay, and then there's steps of verification. But I learned only recently whereby a project, we'll say in China, and there's many of them in China, could be refused by the executive board in Bonn at the last moment, well after the investment has been made, and there is no arbitration or appeal procedure. Also, the whole operation of CDM is not under the jurisdiction of any court. I mean, it's somewhere up in the ether because it's a UN process. And I think both of those, you know, the lack of an appeal and a court jurisdiction to govern the operation of the process are gaps that maybe at Poznan we might see if we can introduce some debate to close before a sign-off, hopefully in Copenhagen.
We have some questions on the political dynamics of the moment. Yesterday we had Satu Hassi here in the studio explaining us what the trilogue exactly is, what kind of dark instrument in the European dungeons of power that exactly is. So it is the interaction between the Parliament and the Council for getting an agreement and hopefully by the end of the year. How does the Parliament perceive the resistance we see in countries like Poland and Italy towards this climate and energy package? Has this been felt inside the House here? And is this intervening in this so-called trilogue negotiation? An
interesting question. I'd start off by saying to your questioner and to your viewers, I wouldn't believe everything you read in the press, first of all. There's nothing new in that, Lena. You're absolutely right. And what's reported in the press as the position on certain aspects of these debates, it's a package of 4 pieces of legislation. You know, what's reported often isn't reflected in what the member state or the country might say around the council or around the table of the presidency, you know. So that's a caveat I would enter into. Notwithstanding that, there is an issue. I mean, Poland has an issue about going day one to 100% auctioning in the power gen sector, for example. That's been well flagged out in the media and well discussed because they have only recently moved from a state-controlled, if you like, electricity sector. They've only just recently liberalised. And there's a lot of the big power plants outside Poland waiting to pounce and start up power gen plants in Poland and purchase maybe some of the existing old stuff, and the whole structure of their grid is a problem. There are structural problems in some countries. Now, I don't see any change from the original Commission's proposal from 100% auctioning in the power gen as the norm, as the major ambition. Having said that, we cannot rule out, we cannot rule it in either at this stage. That's what trilogues are all about. It's the debate process. But I wouldn't rule out a political pragmatism in responding to problems, 1 or 2 problems in a couple of our member states, you know, on different issues. But that won't change the major architecture of the Commission's original proposal. Now, the trilogue, you sort of questioned the trilogue and what that's all. Well, the trilogue, we have a document in front of us that has 3 columns and an empty 4th column at the moment. Basically, the first column is what the Commission has proposed on the revision of the emissions trading system, for example, a list of recitals and a list of articles, what the Commission's architecture is for it. The second column at the moment that on this document we're discussing at our trilogues is the European Parliament's a report, if you like. It's the Environment Committee's report, because the Environment is the lead committee. We'll have taken into account what has been discussed in Lena's committee, but the Environment Committee is actually the lead committee. So it's the Environment Committee report in the second column. And now in the third column, we have the Presidency or the Council of Environment Ministers' views on either the Parliament's position or the Commission's position, or maybe just fresh new proposals on their own. They've added new articles and the odd new amendment here and there. So it's really, we're sitting down with the Presidency and the Commissioner there, and through me as the rapporteur, together with the lead negotiator from the French Presidency side, chaired by the Chairman of the Environment Committee, we and all of my shadow rapporteurs and Lena Ek